Shalom everybody, Brother Nick here. Today's the 16th day of the second month, May 5th, 2025. I'm going to be going fast through this video because I just filmed this video 41 minutes and then I found out that there was no audio to it. I dropped my mic, so I must have broken my external microphone. So now I'm going to be using my laptop microphone and I'm going to try to jam through this video. This video is part 2, reconfirming the amazing mathematical evidence in part 1. And also in this video, I'm going to be providing new Hebrew language evidence in the Genesis flood account that we've all missed. That's there. I knew about it. I didn't include it in my previous video. And that information, this new Hebrew language evidence, and the math, it completely 100% disproves all lunar calendars. So I will be refuting Dan Larimer's response video that he did today. Dan Larimer from Blow the Shofar, he did a video debunking me. He partially did but didn't debunk me. So in Dan's video, he responded to my part 1 video and he definitely checked me. And in his video, he proved that I presented a false dichotomy in my part 1 video. He was correct because I did. And he presented another option that I didn't include, the leap day option, the lunar leap day option that I didn't include, but his video was lacking. And I do definitely appreciate the engagement, and it was a formidable challenge, but there's something that I did not include in my part 1 video presentation that was in my paper that I talked about in my paper that I did mention in there. In my video that I will now include and expound upon in this video, which is going to change everything up. Okay, so here's my paper that I talked to. It's still linked there. So this slide is from my first video from part 1, the Genesis flood facts. On the 17th day of the second month, the flood began. That's Genesis 7:10 in the Masoretic text, and also that date is confirmed in the Dead Sea Scroll 4Q252. The second fact is this scripture, quote, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. That's Genesis 7:24. The next flood fact is, and after the end of 150 days, the waters were abated, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. That's the King James Version of Genesis 8:3-4. And I'm going to be specifically talking about this Genesis 8 verse 3, because there's something in there that I did not mention in the Hebrew that we all need to be aware of and understand. In that previous video, part 1, I also provided this Genesis flood equation. The 17th day of the second month to the 17th day of the 7th month equals 150 days. Twice in both Genesis 7:24 and 8 verse 3 says 150 days. But in that video, I made an error in the equation. That is not the true equation, what you see here. I omitted important information. This is not information that Dan brought up. This is information that I already knew existed that was in part on pages 5, 6, and 7 in my paper that I linked to in part 1. The reason why I didn't include it in the video is that day I was extremely rushed. That day I was on the way to go to the hospital for my foot infection, and my children were rushing me to get me out of here to go to the hospital for my foot infection, which I did go. Things are doing well, and so I also burnt my foot with, and I have a histamine reaction, but that's another story. It's doing better, it looks like, so hallelujah. But there's information, this was rushed, so the equation was not correct, okay? That, what I presented was the common Genesis flood equation, but incorrect. The common flood equation is based on a false supposition and accepting that most English translations of Genesis 8:3 is in correct context, when the English translations are not in correct context for Genesis 8:3, and they are falsely translated, as I'm going to prove in this video. So this fact I left out in my part 1 video. Again, I was rushed. My bad. I had to go to the hospital. My kids were really concerned about my foot because it was so swollen. I had an infection, which turned out to be actually, I treated the infection. It was a histamine reaction, and I had a 2nd-degree burn on my foot. So in this part 2 video, I will get out of Dan's check, and in the same move, I will checkmate him back. I'm going to checkmate Dan back in this video. Yes, it is possible to checkmate your opponent while simultaneously getting out of check, and that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. I'm going to be checkmating Dan in this video, and hopefully Dan is blessed by this information. I don't say it pridefully, I say it truly, sincerely, humbly, but directly. So don't take my directness and being factual with being prideful, because those two are definitely separated. All right. So first in this video, I will first present and explain what I omitted from the part 1 video. Then I will checkmate Dan's math and prove, based on the correct Hebrew context of Genesis 8:3, that even with 4 consecutive 30-day lunar months, all lunar calendars fail the Genesis flood account. All right, that's how I'm gonna do it. Hello, y'all. Let's get going here. The false Genesis flood equation in my part 1 video, you're seeing it right here, because majority of English translations of Genesis 8:3 contradicts the record in Genesis 7:24, which is clear. Genesis 7:24 is clear. Genesis 8:3, false translations. Okay. So again, this is the flood facts revisited. On the 17th day of the second month, the flood began. The waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. After the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated, and the ark rested in the 7th month of the 17th day upon the mountains of Ararat. That's how the Genesis King James Version reads. But this right here, this red part, verse 8, verse 3, false translation. All right? Genesis 7:24 is very clear, as I shared, and the waters prevailed upon the earth for 150 days. That word for prevailed is the Hebrew word gabar, the Strong's H1396, gabar. That word is translated the following: prevail 14 times, strengthen 3 times, great 2 times, confirm 1 time, exceeded 1 time, mighty 1 time, put 1 time, stronger 1 time, valiant 1 time. To prevail, have strength, be strong, be powerful, be mighty, be great. Strong, mighty, prevail, to make strong, strengthen, to confirm, to give strength, to confirm, okay? To show oneself mighty, to act proudly, okay, toward God. Okay, so we don't want to be gabar toward Allahim, all right? But that's the word for this, word prevailed, okay? That's very important to understand the definition of this word, okay? Genesis 8, verse 3 through 4 in the King James, and after the end of 150 days, the waters were abated, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. That word for abated, the Hebrew word for abated is hazar, okay, hazar, and that is Strong's H2637, okay, H2637, translated as want, lack, fail, decreased, abated, have need, made lower, bereave, to lack, be without, decrease, be lacking, have a need, to lack, to be lacking, to diminish, to decrease, to cause to lack, to cause to be lacking, okay? So that's that word right there. So right now, you see it, don't you? You see the contradiction in the Genesis flood facts in the English. Genesis flood facts. It's a tongue twister, especially for me, because I already have a speech challenge, a speech handicap. Okay, so with that being said, the waters prevailed upon the earth for 150 days. So be strong, be strengthened. Okay, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month. Okay, the English translators messed up the context. They didn't mess up. They messed with the context. They fudged it. They changed it. They messed it up, and thus the English contradicts the record in Genesis 7:24. Okay, it is impossible for the waters to be gabar, strong, right here, for 150 days, while at the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated and the ark rested here at the end of the 150th day, the waters abated and the ark rested. Okay, it's impossible for that to be, and that's just because of how we might read it in the context of the English language. All right, the Hebrew is saying that after 150 days, then the waters started to decrease. Okay, but the waters were strong for 150 days. So the waters to be strong or to be strengthened for 150 days, the waters cannot be decreasing. It's a contradictory statement. So these two verses are contradicting each other. So what's the problem? 7:24 is very clear. Genesis 8:3 is not clear, but when you look at the Hebrew, it becomes clear that the account, the Genesis of flood equation that I presented, the common one, it's false. 17th day of the second month to the 17th day of the seventh month equals 150 days. That's a false equation. That's not the actual what Genesis is saying. The actual Hebrew Genesis flood statement, not equation, is 150 days from the 17th day of the second month is less than the 17th day of the seventh month. It does not bring you, it's not including the 17th day of the seventh month. It's less than that. Now I'm going to go ahead and improve upon that. The actual Hebrew Genesis flood equation, that what I just showed you was the actual flood statement. 150 days from the 17th day of the second month is less than or equal to, now it's equal, so it's an equation, the 16th day of the seventh month. So now it's time to go ahead and get into this math, okay? But before I do, this is a comment that I was going to write down, and I need to make sure this is read to everybody. You can pause it and read for yourself. If you don't like to hear me yell, you can just pause the video and do that. If you want to hear me yell/speak, you can listen to me. Again, it needs to be emphatically renoted that the ark did not rest while the waters prevailed, gabar, on the earth for 150 days per Genesis 7:24. The English translators messed up the context of Genesis 8:3, and thus the English contradicts the record in Genesis 7:24. So the ark did not rest on day 150. Rather, the waters began to abate on day 151 at the end/outside. The Hebrew word for the end or outside is katzah, Strong's H7097, of 150 days. So at the end of or outside of 150 days is day number 151, okay? On either day number 151, 152, or 153, the ark rested according to Genesis 8 verse 4. Thus, day number 150 at the very latest can be the 16th day of the seventh month. It cannot be the 17th day of the seventh month because the waters were still gabar, and for the waters to be at, in Genesis 7:10, said the waters were 15 cubits above the mountain peak. So for the waters, okay, to lower, they have to be the other word, whatever that, hatzar. Okay, they can't be gabar, they have to be hatzar. So therefore, day 150 was gabar, day 151 it was hatzar. All right. So this means the waters started to abate, and not when the waters prevailed during the 150 days of gabar. This means that the 17th day of the seventh month is at minimum day 151. Even with the lunar leap day that Dan introduced me to that I wasn't aware of, to be honest, it doesn't even matter. Of the 2 consecutive 30-day lunar months, or the 3 consecutive 30-day lunar months that Dan had in his table, or for the following mathematical exercise, Dan, I'm going to be using 4 consecutive 30-day lunar months, starting on day number 1 of 150 on the 17th day of the second month through the 16th day of the seventh month. It only reaches 149 days, not 150 days, as the text says twice, and thus disproves all lunar calendars. So now let me go ahead and get into the math. Dan is a math guy, everybody's a math guy, and this math proves it, okay? So this, I'm going to mathematically test the lunar cycle with Genesis 7:10, 7:24, 8:3 through 4, with 4 consecutive 30-day lunar months. So in my part 1 video, I had scenario 1 and scenario 2. Now I've got scenario 3 and scenario 4. Scenario 3 starts with a 29-day month for month 2, The third month is 30, fourth month 30 days, fifth month 30 lunar days, sixth month 30 lunar days, seventh month 29 lunar days, okay? Scenario 4, second month has 30 lunar days, third month 30, fourth month 30, fifth month 30 lunar days, sixth month 29 lunar days, followed by the seventh month with 30 lunar days. All right, so starting 17th day of the second month is day number 1 in a 29-day month. You have 13 days plus 30 days plus 30 days plus 30 days plus 30 days plus 16 days for a total of 194 days, not 150 days, okay? Now, when we move it here to the front, again, okay, you have 14 days instead of 13 days here. 14 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 29 plus 16. That means the 16th day of the 7th month is the 149th day, not the 150th day, and thus it disproves all lunar calendars, okay? The 17th day of the 7th month, the waters were Hatzar, not Gabor, which means that they have to recede for the waters to drop down. So they're no longer strengthened or mighty or strong. They're now weakened and diminishing and decreasing. So therefore, the 17th day of the 7th month is not one of the 150 days of Gabar. So with that being said, Dan, here is the math. I hope that you appreciate it. I'm being sincere because you have a reach a lot bigger than my reach right now, even though I've been doing this for like 7 years and you've been doing it for about a year. So this is something that you definitely need to consider. The math is right here. You're a math guy. This is as simple as it gets. Again, all right, this is it. All right, so there you have it. Hello, Yah. All praise to Yah. Now, you might be saying, well, Nick, how'd you get this information? How do you get this understanding? Well, I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, Dan, you did in the challenge, when you shared what you shared with me, I had a search. I did a Google search for 3 consecutive 30-day lunar months, and then I did a Google search for 4 consecutive day lunar 30 months. And what's interesting, I found a result just this morning about this page, who you'll probably appreciate all the mathematics that went into all of this, the average days and all this other stuff. This is a little bit too much for me. But what I want to share with you is using the maximum possible lunation of 29.84089 days, according to this person's calculation, the maximum that you can get over a, I think it's a 5 lunation period is 149.79 days. So this is the math that they found, and then their conclusion right here. Therefore, the maximum possible number of consecutive 30-day lunar months is 4. I had no idea about this until this exercise that I went through today that you put me through. So there you have it. You can check this out. But 149 is not 150. All right, I think we agree on that. And a Gabar for 150, not Hatzar for one on day number 150. So that's something to consider. So Daniel, sincerely, humbly, checkmate, GG, good game. Hello, Yah, all praise to Yah. All lunar calendars fail the Genesis flood account. And as I said, it is possible to checkmate your opponent while simultaneously getting out of check. So I definitely appreciate it. Dan, I hope that you receive this. I hope you receive the truth. It's the spirit of truth. I hope that you receive it. And it's going to be a test of if you're honest or not with the text, and if you're honest or not with the account. Now, I've seen you do a lot of things about trying to move the words around in the Hebrew words to get your understanding. This is it. This is the correct understanding. And how did I know this understanding? Because like 6 years ago, I went through the Dead Sea Scrolls and I saw this information. Right here, what you're looking at, this text right here is Dead Sea Scroll 4Q252. Many might object to these new facts, but this is exactly what I shared with you right now about Genesis 8 verse 3 and 4 and 7:24, the timing of it all. The context of Genesis 8 verse 3 and 8 verse 4, that's exactly how Bible commentators from over 2,000 years ago who spoke the Hebrew language and wrote in the Hebrew language, this is how they understood it in their commentary. They wrote a commentary on the Genesis flood chronology, and that's what this is right here. This is part of it. It continues to keep going, but I'm going to read just this part right here. This part is the part about the 150 days, but I'm going to set this up for you and for everybody else so you have it, so you all know for certain. In the year 480 of Noah's life, Noah reached the end of them. And Elohim said, my spirit will not reside in man forever. Their days shall be fixed at 120 years until the end of the waters of the flood. And the waters of the flood burst over the earth. In the 600 of Noah's life, in the second month, on the first day of the week, on its 17th day. So 17th day of the second month is when this event happened. On that day, all the springs of the great abyss were split, and the sluices of the sky opened, and the rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Days first, nights second, everybody. Okay? Until the 20, in Jeremiah it says that Yahweh's covenant is with the day first and with the night second. Yahweh says it 3 times through the prophet Jeremiah, speaking his own words. Until the 26th of the 3rd month, the 5th day of the week. So that was like the 40th day, I guess. I think that is, or the, okay. Now that's done. 40 days and 40 nights. Check. Got that done. Now let's get into this pink text right here. 150 days did the waters hold sway over the earth until the 14th day in the 7th month, the 3rd day of the week. Okay. So exactly. It wasn't 17th day of the 2nd month to the 17th day of the 7th month equals 150 days. It's 17th day of the 2nd month through the 14th day of the 7th month, okay, is 150 days. At the end of 150 days, the waters came down during implied 2 days, is the that's there in this text. The 4th day and the 5th day. And the 6th day, the ark rested in the mountains of Ararat. It was the 17th day of the 7th month, after 2-day gap. So there you go. And the waters continued diminishing until the 10th month. On the 1st day, okay, the 4th day of the week, the peaks of the mountain began to be visible. All right, and then you can continue to read if you want, but this is right here is to prove out the calendar. Okay, so there you have it. This is how Hebrew-speaking Bible scribes understood the Hebrew text, not how modern translators translated Genesis, or even, King James translators from 1600s translated Genesis chapter 8, because all they knew at the time was a lunar calendar. Okay, they didn't understand the solar 364-day calendar. I don't think the Book of Jubilees was really out in the West. I don't believe the book of Enoch sure wasn't. Dead Sea Scrolls weren't found, so there you have it. So this is now the Genesis flood account on the 364-day calendar. This is the math now, 2nd through 7th month. Okay, day 364-day calendar month. 2nd month has 30 days, 3rd month 31, 4th 30, 5th 30, 6th 31, 7th month has 30. These are the days. 14 days plus 31 days plus 30 days plus 30 days plus 31 days plus 16 days equals 152 days. Okay, now that is through the 16th day of the 7th month. That's to the 17th day of the 7th month. Okay, so what that looks like in a timeline, I'm going to give it again just so we all understand for certain. Okay, and it's very clear. 17th day of the 2nd month was day number 1 of 150 of the waters being prevailing on the earth. Okay, the 14th day of the 7th month was day number 150 of 150 of the waters prevailing on the earth, Gabar. Okay, the following day, the waters began to abate, Hatzar. Okay, that's the 15th day of the 7th month. Remember in that account that I just gave you out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, day 1, and then the 16th day is of the 7th month would have been day 2, the waters abated. That's day number 152 from when the flood began. And then on the 17th day of the 7th month, 17th day of the 7th month, was day number 153, like 153 fish, people say, the ark rested. And the waters continued to abate, okay, all the way up to the 10th month and then maybe to the 1st day of the 1st month, okay? So that's what you have. That's it. Hallelujah. All praise to Yah. And I hope that you are blessed, Dan. I hope everybody's blessed. I hope all my subscribers are blessed. Anybody that gets this video, I hope that you're blessed. And Dan, I hope that you bring this information to your people, your channel, so they can be blessed as well. But I am not done. I am not done, because before you did your video, Dan, and I saw that your video pop up in my feed, I was working on another video, and now I'm going to tag that video into here to further checkmate you, make sure that this is done, that you know that it's a solar calendar, and that as far as your Passover reckoning, it's incorrect. Likely you need to go back to my 364-day calendar reckoning on the Passover account. I believe I have that in there and whatnot, and I believe I have the Exodus account correct as well. So now let me go ahead and do this video. I was preparing this video this morning. I did not prepare the date that I was going to do it. This is because I copied and pasted the template, so don't mind the date, but I was working on it this morning, and I was going to present it today until I saw your video, so I had to just do that video that I just did, and now I'm going to go ahead and share this video, Dan, and all my viewers out there, all lunar calendars disproven by the books of Revelation and Daniel. So this is a prophetic time in Daniel and Revelation. Daniel 12 verse 7 records a time period of time, times, and a half of time to persecute, scatter the people in the power of the holy people. Then in Daniel 12, 11 through 13 records time periods of 1,290 days, 1,335 days. Okay. Daniel 7 records the horn of the beast is given a time period of a time, times, and a half of a time to speak blasphemies and persecute the saints. Then in Revelation 12 verse 6, it records the woman's flight into the wilderness for 1,260 days. Then in verse 14, it records the woman's safety in the wilderness to evade persecution is a time period of a time, times, and a half of a time. And then in Revelation 13 verse 5, the beast of the sea is given 42 months to speak blasphemies and to persecute, make war with the saints, and to overcome them. So this is very important information, Dan, and everybody else out there. You have the prophetic time in Daniel, records in Daniel, and you have the prophetic time accounts in the book of Revelation. I want to key in on the book of Revelation time accounts because this right here is all of the same record. While in Daniel 12:7 and Daniel 12:11 through 14, that's all part of the same prophecy that was given. But in context, Daniel 7 was a part of a prophecy given on another time. Though it might be speaking of the same event, I don't know. I can't say. I'm not an expert in the book of Daniel. But definitely those two verses, the three verses in chapter 12 of Daniel are together, while these three verses in Revelation are all from the same record as well. Because Revelation 13 is just an artificial chapter break. Revelation chapter 13 is a continuation of the same account in Revelation chapter 12. They just put a chapter break in there, which is artificial. So when you look at Revelation chapter 12 and 13, you can deduce, because go read the context. Everybody go read the context. You will see with your own eyes and ears and your own spirit, the Ruach of truth will show you that it's all speaking of the same time period. Revelation 12:6, 1,260 days equals a time, times, and a half a time of Revelation 12:14, which also equals 42 months of Revelation 13, verse 5. So these all equal the same thing. So when it says a time, times, and a half a time, it's speaking of 42 months, which is speaking of 1,260 years. So a time, times, and a half a time is really 3.5 years. That's how it all works. I call this the Revelation prophetic calendar key, because without this, we won't understand what Daniel's talking about. John the Revelator understood, and in his revelation, he gave us this information, which is a key and opens up the prophetic timeline and understanding of Daniel. Okay, so with that being said, this is so important to understand, because when you take basic astronomy, a lunar calendar, a lunar cycle month is 29.53 days approximately. Okay, it goes a little bit longer than that, but it's minute, and that's not going to have a big effect on this. But when you look at that, 42 months of Revelation 13:5 times a lunar month cycle, average lunar month cycle, 29.53, that equals 1,240.28 days, not the 1,260 days. It says it's short almost 20 days. Okay, you don't have an explanation for that. All right, times and a half a time right here of lunar years is 43 months. For a time is 1 year, that's 12 months. Times is 2 years, it's another 24 months, but it's actually 25 months because every 3 years we all know that there's a leap month. So that means now we're at not just 36, we're at 37. And then you have to add a half of a lunar year, which is 6 months. That brings you to 43 lunar months, not 42 like this text says. You don't have an explanation for that, okay? All right, the lunar calendars don't do this. It just can't. And then times and a half a time of lunar years, so 43 months of lunar years, times 29.53 days per lunar month, if you want to say that that's the case, that equals 1,269.81 days, not 1,260. So you're like almost 9 days more, 10 days, almost 10 days longer than what it should be. So here you're 20 days lacking, here you're like almost 10 days longer, okay? And it's because of this leap month that was added that it's not in the text, because Revelation 13:5 is clear. It says 42 months, not 43. Now, I heard in your video, Dan, that you said, okay, well, maybe Joshua's long day, something happened there, or maybe someone else might say, well, Hezekiah, the sun went back 10 degrees, or someone might say something happened with the flood. So let's just discuss that. The book of Revelation was written, what, like 60 or 70, 60 like AD, CE, Common Era, AD, whatever you want to call it. So it was only written like 2,000 years ago. And Joshua's long day had already happened. The flood already happened. And if you take 1,260 days divided by 42 months, that gives you 30 days per month. But we know the solar cycle is 365.2422. So something more is going on than the text. And what's going on is that this is a prophetic calendar variant and of the secret hidden 364-day calendar that was hidden in it, as it said that the Israelites would lose track of the calendar, and it's only come out in the last, what, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, okay? I mean, the book of Enoch was found, I believe, like in the 1800s, and also the book of Jubilees, but there you have it, okay? That's how you have it. Now, to explain what happened for those people out there, I saw some comments. When Joshua's long day happened, the sun was spinning with the stars at about the same speed. It's a little bit different because of the sidereal year versus the tropical year, but it's about the same. What happened was the stars spin a little bit faster. What happened was they're spinning together. It says stop. The sun stood in the midst of heaven, and the stars in the background would have just kept going a whole day or whatever. It said a whole day, so maybe it caught up and then it went forward, or maybe it just went like this, and then there was a distance there between the two, and that was like some precession or something. That's one possibility. But it could have came back around and then went forward and retract again, kind of like a gear coming off of the bike and then getting back on gear and then going forward. That's an explanation, original explanation. Hello, well, yeah. As far as Hezekiah's 10 degrees, okay, the sun went back 10 degrees. We don't know what happened in the backdrop of the stars, okay, but likely if the sun is moving with the stars during the daytime, they're moving together in sync, and then the sun stops and goes back, or the sun goes back 10 degrees, and while everything is going along, there's a 10-degree separation between that. So that's something that hasn't been accounted for in the modeling for Hezekiah's extended day. His was an extended day as well, so that's something to consider. All right, so there was a decoupling there, and that might look like precession, because now the sun is off by like 10 degrees of where it was supposed to be in that night sky. I don't know the mathematic, not 10 degrees of the whole sky, but 10 degrees of that particular time period of a day, 10 degrees of a day. So I don't know what that looks like. I'm not an astronomer, but I could at least, that's how that is. So there you have the prophetic timeline in the book of Revelation. Again, Daniel 9:27, Daniel 12, the record of Daniel 12, and this is something interesting, the record of Daniel 12:7 and 11:13, and both the record of Revelation 12 and 13 both contain the Archangel Michael, which is something to consider. They both have time and a half a time, time and a half a time. They both have the power to persecute of the holy people. The woman evades persecution, then the saints, who are the remnant of the woman's seed, is overcome, that is persecuted by this figure here in this thing. So there you have it, and very important in Daniel 11:13, it records time periods of 1,290 days. So that's an additional 30-day prophetic month, and also an additional, and then also above that, 1,335 days, which is another, 45 days. So that's another month and half of a prophetic month. Okay, so that's something to consider. Now, here is the 364-day calendar template. Just so everybody knows, Daniel understands this. The spring equinox and the leap day that happens once every 4th year is not included in the solar calibrated non-Gregorian 364-day calendar. The calendar is 12 30-day months right here. Each month has 30 days plus 4 intercalary days, one at the end of every 3rd month. So in month 3, 6, 9, and 12 is the intercalary day for a total of 364 days. This is a template. Now, the 360-day prophetic calendar variant. This is a variant of the 364-day calendar. The calendar still does not account and do not reckon the spring equinox or the leap day. There are still 12 30-day months, as you see, but the 4 intercalary days are not reckoned per likely Enoch 75 verse 1 to 2, and it's been blotted out. Now, those 4 have been blotted out, so you have 12 times 30, that's 360, and there you have it, the 360-day prophetic calendar variant. And the lunar calendar, all lunar calendars have nothing to make the book of Revelation work. The book of Revelation is the same language as the book of Daniel. I actually believe John and Daniel are the 2 witnesses, but what do I know? I was expecting them like 3.5 years ago, expecting them like 7 or 6 years ago after I came to that conclusion. Whatever the case, John the Revelator knows the book, knows the math better than Dan Larimer, was taught it directly from Messiah Yeshua of the 364-day calendar. The 364-day calendar was to become lost. Now, as far as the book of Enoch is concerned, in my paper, my plethora paper, I have about 75 pages written on the solar calibrated non-Gregorian version of the 364-day calendar. There are many false variants or false versions of the 364-day calendar that use the Gregorian days of the week, false, that also don't know how to intercalate, false, that also use the equilux, false. And there's things in the book of Enoch that I discovered that went either obsolete or just was falsely put in and was never true, that people think and assume is true. For instance, the gates and some other things that are in there. You could read the paper to explain it. Daniel, I hope that you get this information. Now you can, and with this information, go back, check my information on my spreadsheet I think I have on the chronology of the Passover and Resurrection week. Look at my chronology on the Exodus that I'll probably be going over. I hope that you're blessed, and I hope that you can bless everybody that is a subscriber to your channel. I hope anybody watching this is blessed, and I hope my subscribers are blessed. And whatever the case, all praise to Yah, hallelujah. So be it, and I'm signing off.